racing immediately. But a champion becomes a legend. Maccabi Diva wins it again.
Yes, yes, yes. Wins the Everest. Glen Boss wins another big one.
Here we go for another great episode of Who's the Boss, and this one will be an absolute beauty. Adam Peacock alongside Glen Boss to kick things off before our special guest joins us. Yeah. Miracle Mal, one of your favourites, Bossy.
Yeah, my idol as a kid growing up, and I can't wait to sit down and thrash some stories out. It's going to be fun.
How's your week? What'd you get up to?
Had a great week, actually. Went out for a bit of a surf early in the week, which I'm not very good at, but I'm getting better at, and played some golf with my great mate Fatty Vorton and Chrissy Lynn, and got all of their cash.
Ooh.
Oh, Fatty goes, it's a stitch up. He got me stitched up again. The handicaps, he's always blowing off about that. But, geez, I love getting their money.
Yeah, Fatty's got enough after his time with Channel 9. And also Chris Lynn, who just goes around and plays cricket, hits sixes and then gets paid for it. It's
Millions.
it's
millions.
So it's good to take that cash.
Oh, but don't worry. Chris did say through the day, halfway through the round, said, how much am I potentially going to lose today? And I went, are you serious? I like standing on the first tee using the old MJ things. How much you want to play for? I go, whatever makes you uncomfortable.
Love it. Love it. Now, don't forget AirTouch are great supporters here at Who's the Boss. airtouch.net.au for all your air conditioning needs in terms of staying across your climate control in your humble abode, Bossy, which you do with these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just the ease of it. That's the thing I love about it. Everything's on your phone. It's so simple, connected to your house. Like I say, playing golf, we're getting cooler up in Queensland at the moment, which, when it gets cool, it just gets below 20.
22.
But I like my house at 24. So just before I get home, put it on and walk into the house and it's perfect.
You would have battled in Sydney this week, by the way, because it was 10 degrees on Wednesday.
I battled when I got off the plane this morning.
Arctic.
Yeah, I know. It feels like it's coming straight off the snow.
Yeah, so the AirTouch is in operation right now.
Yes.
In a little place about 45 minutes that way. So, yeah,
Good
airtouch.net.au. So let's get into our special guest. We can do the preamble more, Bossy, but should we get into the chat?
Yes, do it.
Here we go.
Love
Miracle Mal Johnson. Malcolm Johnson, welcome.
Thank you.
Who's the Boss? How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, life's been good.
Yep.
Still playing a bit of golf, enjoying myself. I had a big night last night, watching the Blues win.
Oh, stop.
As we sit here right now, it's just after Origin, but you bounced back well if it was a big night.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I had a few beers and just enjoyed my own company.
Yeah.
Which sometimes is no good.
No.
But, it was really good. Really good.
Bossy, when did you guys meet? I'd love to know this.
A long time ago.
Yeah, this is a great story. So, I don't know if you've ever told him, but Malcolm was my idol as a kid. When I first started my apprenticeship, right?
Geez, you got good taste.
No. I was given a VCR of The King and the Man.
Oh.
Right? And I would have watched that VCR when I was 16-year-old hundreds of times.
So Kingston Town, Manikato.
Kingston Town, Manikato. And because obviously Malcolm was front and centre in that whole episode. Bill Collins, beautifully narrated. It was a beautiful piece, actually.
Yeah, it was.
And so I watched it over and over. And obviously you were front and centre. And I fell in love with this bloke, because he was always
stylish.
Oh, my God. Suits.
Well dressed.
Beautiful hair.
Yeah.
Mate, you had the flash cars. You had it all, right? And he was the superstar. He was the superstar.
I wasn't a superstar.
You were the superstar of Australian racing. So I fell in love with this guy. So go forward a few years. I'm down in Sydney riding for Noel Doyle. He brought a few down.
Yeah.
And I'm actually riding a bit of work for Clary Connors out at Warwick Farm. Anyway, I had to go to Clary had a few runs for me at Gosford. And I didn't know where Gosford was, didn't even know how to get it. So Clary said, I'll ring Malcolm Johnson, he'll come and pick you up. And I go, are you kidding? So Malcolm comes in this big green fucking flash car.
SV5000.
Yeah, the green.
Yeah.
The what?
Big green.
SV5000.
Mate, it was this beautiful big green car.
It was good.
Right, so I'm getting in the car next to me idol. I don't think I hardly spoke on the way up. And that's how we met. But then I was later find that he actually, where you lived was nowhere near Warwick Farm.
Nah.
You had to come at like 40 minutes to pick me up.
Yeah. But that's what I did.
Yeah, and then drop me back there and then go back home. So I couldn't believe that.
I knew when Clary said, come and pick up Glen Boss, I knew in later years you would become that superstar. Where you'd take over, like 3 Melbourne Cups.
I never really, because I got down to Sydney about 93. I was a couple of trips, so I never got to ride against you a lot.
I was at the end of my tether then. I retired in 95. And the year I retired, I probably should have retired a bit earlier. But I was 35 years of age when I give it away. And time, like, I go back. I never wanted to be a jockey, seriously, as a kid growing up. I wanted to play rugby league.
Yeah.
And I represented country against City in 1970. Wow. Right, that's a fair while ago. But I was good at it. But it was all weight division. True story. A lot of old blokes will remember that. It was all weight. You used to go to a footy carnival. They'd put a stamp on your wrist. Weigh in, put a stamp on your wrist. 4 7s, 5 7s, 6 7s, 7 7s and opens. When I represented country against City, the stamp on my wrist was 4 stone 7, which is 35.5 kilos. Yeah. I was 14 years of age. Yeah. The eldest kid I played against in the City side was 9. And I belted the absolute out of it. Give it to him, right? And I seriously thought I was going to be a superstar. Yeah. I could have played State of Origin if they kept it at weight division. I swear to God. But then what they did, they changed. In 1971, it went from weight to age. Yeah. And I went from captain of country to footy career rat shit. Nothing. Yeah, absolutely. I scored 2 tries in that game. And when I went home, someone said to me, "Oh, Malcolm, you had a great game. You scored 2 tries. That was great." He said, "What position did you play?" I said, "Wherever I wanted to play, because I weren't going to have no 8-year-old telling me where to go." But that was 1970. That's how, and that's all I ever wanted to do was play rugby league. And then because of my uncle, a guy called Les Coles, he won the Melbourne Caulfield Cups double in 1962, my mum's brother. And because of my stature, my grandfather, God bless him, got me a job in Sydney with Theo Green on a 3-month trial basis. Yep. And the rest is history. But I'd never been on a horse before until I went to the stables.
Really? You were from the country?
Yep.
So you never hopped on one there?
Never even got on one. Had no inkling, ambition to ride at all. But for whatever reason, and Bossy will tell you, horses could run for me. And the name of our game is to get a horse to run from point A to point B in the quickest possible time. I don't know how I did things, but horses could run for me.
Incredible balance, though, Miracle.
And pretty on them. Yeah.
No, that was true. True, though.
What do you mean pretty?
Like stylish. Yeah.
So in what way? Like how can you...
At the furlong and that, I just... Look good on them. And everyone wanted to copy it.
They did.
Yeah. But I had a...
you could put a cup of tea on his back.
I had a really good seat on a horse. Yes. I could get it to a point. I had a really straight back. And like most of the videos, the films, if you watch them, are black and white because
it's a few in colour.
It's a
few in colour.
But just my body shape suited what I did. And a lot of jocks tried to copy it and...
failed.
Well, they failed. They couldn't get as pretty.
So does it make the horse as one with the rider if you're sitting on it in a certain way, does it?
See, I liken it to a lot of the modern jockeys these days. Very quiet from the hips down.
Below,
Very quiet on the horse, but their strength comes from their core upwards. That's where their power and that. So they're so horses generally feel like there's no one on top of them. You feel really quiet on them, and that's where back before
We
Miracle,
used to kick.
well, before Miracle, it was always
Yeah.
they'd get in the back seat and just
Back
jump
it.
all over them and
Yeah.
wobble it. But Miracle come along, this quiet little bloke, very quiet on them.
Yeah.
And very still on him, but the horses ran for him. So that was almost like he changed the game in a way. Miracle.
Well, it was just something that come natural to me. And that, like, in my day, like a bloke like Mick Dittman, he would just hit them wherever there was fur.
Yeah, yep.
Wherever I'm the strongest jockey I've ever seen in my life,
Yeah.
and would hit them wherever there's fur, and there was no holding back with anything with Mick, and that was the style in those days. And then I sort of changed it a little bit, like Peter Cook.
Yeah,
He's another
yeah,
superstar.
yep,
He was the quietest jockey on him
Unbelievable.
I've ever seen,
yeah.
ever.
Great, great hands.
Oh, amazing.
So, with horse racing, obviously, and legendary status like yourself, Miracle, what was it, 2,000 winners? Yeah,
Yeah.
you hold the record for most Group 1s in a season, which
Yeah,
is 16.
16.
But
Yeah.
great riders are known for an affinity with great horses. And obviously,
Oh.
Bossy has had an affinity with a certain mare that won three of
Yeah.
these things.
And we'll never see that again.
Yeah.
There's a few things in the game we'll never see again, and we'll never see another horse win 3 Melbourne Cup.
I don't think so.
It just can't happen.
No.
But you had Kingston Town
Yeah.
and a close association. So, what were those times like riding the idle horse
Yep.
of that era for the biggest trainer in town, Tommy Smith, who had a certain about a bit
Aura
of character
about
about him?
Yeah.
What
Well-
was that like? You got any funny tales that sum up that period of your
In
life?
those days, the only thing I will say, I rode for Tommy for nearly 8 years, and we had a great association. But the only thing I would say, I started riding for him when I was 21 years of age. The only thing I would say, I would have loved to have started riding for him when I was 31 years of age. I went to my boss and I said, "Boss," I'd just come out of my time, and I said, "Boss, I've been offered the job with Tommy Smith to be his stable rider." And in those days, everyone had a stable.
Yes.
You were associated with the stable. And he said to me, "Son, I think you're a little bit too young to be taken on the biggest job in the country." He said, "But it would be very, very hard to knock that job back." So I didn't even dwell on it. I wanted the job because it was the best job in the country, and he had the best horses. Kevin Langby was his stable rider at the time, and I took the job on. But in the second year I was there, one of the 2-year-olds that walked through our gate that year was Kingston Town. So if I hadn't have taken the job on then, someone else would have got Kingston Town. And look, in our game, it's about being at the right place, right
100%,
time,
yep.
without a doubt. And second year I was there, one of the 2-year-olds that come through our gate was Kingston Town.
An amazing story.
And that's a true story. And I loved every minute of him. He was an absolute freak to ride. I say the thing that stops athletes, whether they're human or equine, is pain. He had no pain barrier. I don't know how many times I thought I got to the top of him. He'd still find something else. He was amazing to ride. And he won from 1,200 metres to 2 miles.
Yeah.
Which
What was his?
he was by Bletchley.
I know, but what was his demeanour like riding work and that?
Oh, he's a prick.
Just
He was a prick to ride.
yeah. What,
Oh.
in what way though? What would he do?
Just a character.
Yeah.
Bossy, I was riding him one day and I hated, and he never went anywhere without the pony. And he was a chronic windsucker. And people say, "Oh, windsuckers are no good."
Yeah.
He was chronic. Soon as you took the collar off him, Errol, who used to ride the pony, Kingston Town was that bad, he'd try and latch onto the pony
Yeah,
to suck.
wow.
Yeah, he was unbelievable.
So when they call them windsuckers, Adam, when they're in their box, they'll bite down on a piece of or on the railing, and they suck air back in through it. Into their guts. It's a bad habit some of them have. It's
terrible
a bit of
habit.
a boredom thing sometimes, but
Yeah, but he was a bad windsucker, and he had this collar on 24/7 virtually.
He just sounds like a loose unit.
yeah.
He was loose. I tell you, best horse to ride race day you've ever seen. But track work, absolute prick. And I was riding him work.
Yeah.
I hated riding him work Monday morning because he'd have Sunday off, and he'd just be out of control. Right? And I used to say to the boss, put someone else on him, put one of the work riders on him or something Monday morning. But he was that quick on his feet. One day I vividly remember I was riding him work, and he used to go twice round the big sand. I'd gone one lap on the big sand, and I was coming to the gap, and they had a little sand, what they call the little sand, which was inside the big sand. And he sidestepped from the big sand at the gap onto the little sand and never missed a beat.
Wow.
And continued
What
on.
about your sphincter though?
I shit myself. I fair dinkum shit
He could have
myself.
impaled himself.
Oh, and he used to prop and whip round. Oh, he had some shit in him, I tell you. But when it was down to business, most unbelievable horse to ride. And you've seen him heaps of time on that video.
Oh.
If they went slow, like in the Derby, when I won the Derby on him, Adam, I seriously made 4 runs on him.
Wow.
What about when you won the Rosehill Guineas on him? They walked.
Yeah, they
walked.
Yep. Yeah.
You went up, you led, and then you come back to third the fence, and they still walked.
Yep.
But he was electric off.
Oh, he was a freak.
Off the mark. He was as quick as any horse you'd ever want to put your eyes on. Jeez, he was amazing.
He was, and in a 1,200-metre race, like I could be back last on him and just smoking me pipe, and just get to the top of the rise and just, and he'd just explode.
Did he just like running past horses?
He loved it. Absolutely loved it. And he used to run in all the time.
Yeah.
I got suspended on him quite a few times.
Not your
because
fault.
I used to half. He was a funny horse. When you let him down, he accelerated while he was going half sideways. He was a funny horse, but his acceleration, unbelievable. And I've seen some champions.
Yeah.
Like Winx.
I was going to say.
I never thought I'd see another Kingston Town until she come along.
Yeah.
But Kingston Town never missed a dance. Winx was the best managed horse I've ever seen.
Yep.
And full credit to Chris, what he did with her was amazing. But Kingston Town never missed a dance.
Because Winx, Bossy, I would think that she would have been able to get 2 miles.
100%.
Like
Adam.
they would have given her 78 kilos in a Melbourne Cup. And she could win over a sprint distance.
Yep.
So that's the only other horse in Kingston Town. Maybe a superimpose that you could think, could get it done over a short distance. But, I mean, it's a really, really harsh question, but I'm going to ask it to you two guys anyway because you know both horses so well. Like, if they did a match race, what would be the distance and what would be the outcome? Or it's totally unfair to even comprehend.
You know what,
the
Adam?
answer.
That's a real shit question. Yeah.
Had to ask it though, Miracle.
Yeah, had to ask it.
Because you know both so
I've never
well.
never heard that question before.
Excuse me, but I will. I'll say something. I never thought I'd see another horse win 3 Cox Plates, but then along come Winx, and there's that theory gone. But over a mile and a quarter, or a mile, while she's back smoking a pipe, how she used to race, I could be outside the leader on him, and he would quicken and he'd put 3 or 4 lengths on
Yeah,
her,
yeah,
100%.
easily, yeah.
And whether she was good enough to pick him up, I just don't know. I think he would.
She,
I think
will
he.
say this: she never beat she never really beat another champion horse.
Yeah.
She was running around in an era when weight for age where there was not many good horses around, and this is not taking anything away from that champion mare she is.
100%.
But if you line up the horses that run second and third, were in like Humidor in a Cox Plate, the horses that run second,
Yeah.
then horses you don't remember.
Yeah.
Honestly, she was just in a very sweet spot for about 4 seasons there, where there was no depth at all in weight for age racing.
Yeah.
No,
you got a good.
honestly,
point.
you go and look at horses that run second and third to her throughout her whole career.
Yeah.
Not many of them are memorable names.
And champions, I define champions a little bit. I say I've only ever seen 2 out-and-out champions. But when I say that, I've seen champion horses within their categories. Like Maccabi Diva, I've never seen a better stayer, ever. She was the best stayer I've ever seen. Manicato, absolute champion sprinter. He won 5 William Reeds.
I know,
for
5
God's
William
sake.
Reeds. And he ran in an Australian Cup, He ran in an Australian Cup.
Well,
2,000 metres.
There's another champion that people don't talk of much. Mighty Kingdom, Might and Power.
Might and Power, yeah.
He won
Everything.
Caulfield Cup, Cox Plate, Melbourne Cup.
I know.
Like,
I know.
that's freaky. And
Derbies, everything.
I've seen some champion racehorses, but I've only ever seen 2 out-and-out champions that could have done anything. Winx, if Chris Waller had said, I'm going to set her for a Melbourne Cup, she would have won a Melbourne Cup.
Yep.
Or an Everest.
Or an Everest, 100%.
Yeah.
And Kingston Town the same. He should have won a Melbourne Cup. But
Yeah.
What happened?
yeah, I knew you were going to ask that.
You brought it up.
I knew
question.
you were going to
It's not a second shit question.
I shouldn't have said anything.
You opened the door, though.
Can I say to your defence though? They said my 3 rides were some of the best. You go and watch Mick
100%.
Dittman's ride on Gurner's Lane. It has to go down as one of the greatest Melbourne Cup rides in history.
Yeah. Well,
He saved every inch of ground.
not as good as your first ride on Maccabi Diva. That was the best.
No,
ride.
but it was
Freaky.
a freaky ride that beat you that day.
Yeah, freaky.
So-
But it was. But and in our game, Bossy, 100%. You can't have things over again.
No, you can't. Mate.
No. And I had 14,000 rides in my career, but if I could have one over again, it would be that 82 Melbourne Cup.
Yeah.
But we had a plan. Everything went according to game plan, except getting beat a neck. In our game, you win by a neck, you're a superstar.
Yep.
You get beat a neck, you're a mug.
Because you about 900, 800 from home,
Yeah.
you've got a choice to make. You go, I'll stay here, or I'll potentially wait for everything to come back in my lap. So you got out wide, letting...
Tommy said, if you get over the cross and you get an opportunity to get out, make sure you get out on him, because I used to ride him like he was the best horse all the time. I didn't take chances on him.
Yeah.
I just put him 3D wherever. Just give him a clear run. And Tommy said, if you can get out, make sure you get out on him. Anyway, got over the crossing, and I was following the stablemate. It was called Port Carling. And I said, I don't want to be in behind this bastard, because he won't even get me into the corner. So there was an opportunity for me to get out. I did so. Because I had such a cushy run that day, I had the best run in the race. When I let him down, he was a horse that used to take a few strides to hit top gear. But when I let him down that day, he exploded. And once you go on him, you can't say, oh, shit, maybe I've gone a bit too quick.
Yeah, you're foot down to the floor.
You just got to pray to God you hang on.
So you didn't realise he was going to zip like that?
Not as quick as what he did. No, and I let him I clicked him at the top of the straight and he just exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, shit. I hope he hangs
I did
on, which
yeah.
I thought he would.
Yeah.
But Mick got a freaky run on Gurner's Lane.
We've all done it though, Miracle. I did.
100%.
I did it. I rode a horse. So you think I won the Cox Plate on him,
Fuck,
and then
what a good
then
horse.
he was a proper star, and they ran him. They freshened him up after the Cox Plate to run him in the Emirates Mile on the last day. So he had 2.5 weeks between runs, or 2 weeks between runs. Sorry, and I did the same. I straightened up on him over the mile, top straight went. He just exploded, and as soon as I went. No, I did. I just went off because I've let him. Flemington's a long way home,
Yeah,
and of course I got beat on him, and I got smashed for it. I never.
Were you thinking, what's Bart going to say to me here?
Oh yeah, no. It's just I copped never rode him again.
Yeah.
But it happens.
It happens, yeah. And everyone said to me, you got to wait until the clock tower.
No bullshit.
I still haven't found that. I still don't know where
You
the
know
clock
what?
tower is.
That's an old wise tale. Wait till the clock tower.
Yeah.
Because if you're waiting to the clock tower, you're either not trying,
Yeah.
or you're just going to piss in anyway, right?
Yeah.
So
'Cause
what's
it's
the
200
difference?
from home.
It's less than.
Yeah.
It's less than.
But that's the only race and my whole career was decision based. And you make a decision, and 98 out of 100 were the right decision.
Yep.
But that's what stands you out from being a
100%.
good jockey.
Yeah.
And I made a decision that day, didn't come off, but because it was a Melbourne Cup, everyone goes back to that 82 Melbourne Cup.
What was it, 25 out of his 30 wins?
Yeah, I won
You-
25 on him.
It's
Yeah.
a pretty good record.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
good.
a pretty decent bloody
Adam,
record.
I won 25 on him. You could have won 23.
Oh,
Yes, you could have.
wouldn't have made the weight. I
Swear to
would have
God,
thought.
all you had to do was steer
But
him.
the Cox
What were the
Plates-
two that I couldn't have?
The Cox Plates are special though, aren't they? Like it's
Yeah.
I've said it often. Our best race on the planet basically is the Cox Plate. Our greatest race is the Melbourne Cup, but
Yeah,
our
that's
best
the
race,
highest rated.
that's a
yeah.
the
good
best
call.
race that we have is the Cox Plate. And I
100%.
dreamt after I wanted to win a Cox Plate before I wanted to win a Melbourne Cup.
Yeah.
Because I watched that King and Man and just watched Kingston Town sail up and win his Cox Plate. So that was ingrained in my brain as a 15, 16-year-old kid that I have to win a Cox Plate. So and I got just as much satisfaction out of winning the Cox Plates as the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Look, when I won the first one on him, I'll never forget the Melbourne press
Yes.
had bagged him.
That's right.
Because he got beat in the Caulfield
Caulfield.
Guineas and he was 2-1 on. But he had a problem. He never got onto the right leg when we went to Melbourne. And he got beat. I led on him and he just scrambled around and he didn't handle it. Anyway, they tagged him as Sydney champion. And I'll never forget this. I rode him work on the Tuesday morning. Tommy said, "What do you think?" I said, "Don't worry about him on Saturday, TJ. He'll piss in.
Yeah.
He just loves the valley. He loves the camber. It's different.
Yeah.
See,
He'll shit in.
Caulfield is traditionally a bad place for Sydney because
Yeah,
Caulfield,
runs away.
you're running downhill a little. From the half mile, you're actually running downhill,
Yep.
and it's a neutral camber when you turn the corner, which means it's flat. So if you're starting to go one way, there's
like a shopping trolley.
there's no camber to hold you back.
100%, yeah.
Moonee Valley, you're going uphill, and you've got this massive camber, so the horses can't go right.
Yeah,
They have to keep
They
on the
have to
corner.
with the
They
camber.
have to go
Yeah.
left. So
And-
it forces them onto their right leg.
And I'll
It's
never
a great track for that.
I'll never forget it, Bossy. I like you'll appreciate this, but they tagged him as Sydney champion and he's shitty. He won by 5. When I got the winning post, I saluted.
Yes.
Right? No one sort of ever saluted, but and the press said, what was going on with that salute? I said, well, that was for you, Melbourne press, who tagged him as Sydney champion, right? And I saluted like, up yours. Stewards got me in. I got fined $500. Like $500. Yeah, 100%.
You should have done that one.
I should have. I got
Made it worthwhile.
I got fined $500 because they said, no, you can't be doing that shit. And Have you seen some of his salutes?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he went off his
Seen
brain.
some of Bossy's?
Yeah, but you see the fines I've paid over my career.
Yeah, they would have been massive.
Massive.
Yeah.
I reckon I would have paid no less than $100,000
In fines.
in fines for
You find out
saluting.
where it went? Like they must have had an
Wow.
No, I
almighty
reckon that
Christmas
goes to the-
party.
Well, you know
Yeah,
what?
the jockeys, I reckon it went to the
One of
jockeys
my
fund.
proudest
Oh, jockeys
moments, I always dreamt of, I used to see it before I started riding. Jockeys would come back after they won a Group 1 race and take their helmet off.
Yeah.
And it was just a given. You could do it, right? And I used to think, how good would that be to take your helmet off? Anyway, I used to love it, taking the helmet off. That was a
Had all the
Saturday-
hair.
Yeah, that was like,
Yep.
well, Group 1, that's
Yeah.
the best. Today, you're not allowed to do it.
No.
Oh, really?
No.
Nah. You're not allowed to do it.
Yes,
because
safety, health and safety's
yeah,
bullshit.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of
So,
course.
but
Yeah.
I miss that, and he used to he made my little salute look like shit.
I've seen him at Randwick. I've seen him at Randwick cross the line, and
Yeah.
you look up 30 seconds later, he's round the back at the mile start, pulling the horse up, and he's still up in the
He's
sky.
still
Celebrating. Fair enough. You got to celebrate the wins, bossy.
Oh, you
yes?
do. I
But
used
it's
to
the
love
best,
them.
Adam. It's the best feeling in
It's
the world.
the best feeling, isn't it?
In the world when you cross the line, and you've achieved that Group 1. That it's the pinnacle
Well, you get-
of our career.
You're going 65 k's an hour, and you've got 30,000 people going off their brain. It's
Yeah.
a pretty
Yeah,
unnatural
yeah,
position to
yeah.
be
And
in.
the old days, when we were around, we were talking about it before, the crowds
Massive.
were unbelievable.
Yeah.
And everyone loved Kingston Town. And,
Oh, yeah.
and people say, how'd you handle the pressure? There was no pressure.
No.
Seriously, riding him, it wasn't a pressure cooker
But you knew you had
situation.
you had bullets to fire.
If
If they went slow, too bad. If they went
I'll be up
fast,
outside.
too bad.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean?
It didn't
Yeah.
matter.
It didn't matter.
Did not matter. And, like, there was no pressure
But
riding
yet you could do those
him.
3 or 4
He
runs
was-
on him.
He was a superstar.
You often need to pop out and make a spot and go, just park him again.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, it's incredible.
Well, someone said to me once, how did you feel at the furlong when you went for the stick in the derby? I said, I wasn't sure which stick to pull because I got a stiff. Yeah. He gave 5 in front and then I said, well, what's going on here?
Beyond the King, I want to touch base on a story from 1982.
Yeah.
You're riding it's probably not in front of 30,000 people, and it's probably not capturing the nation's attention, but still, it's an amazing story that remains to this day one of the most eye-opening betting plunges you've ever seen in your life on an
yes.
Australian racetrack.
Yep,
You've rocked up the races one day, and you've been booked to ride a horse called Getting Closer
correct.
at Canterbury,
Yep,
and it is put up at 200 to 1.
yep.
Now, by the time you give it a nice steer, as always, get it home, it pays 2 to 1.
Wow.
What the hell happened? And can you talk about any kind of pressure that day?
Nah, I tell you what happened. It was the best coup I've ever seen in my life, ever.
Henry Davis.
Henry Davis, the trainer, Mark Reed, the owner.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget it. And in those days, there was no mobile phone. Everything went through landline. On the Monday night, I get a call from Henry Davis. I had no idea who he was. He said, I'm a trainer from the Gold Coast. I've got a horse in the second race at Canterbury. Can you ride it? And I was leading rider at the time. And I said, yeah, I haven't got a ride in the race. I'd love to ride it. Anyway, I did the form on it. It runs second last at Ballarat and second last at Geelong. First 2 starts. And I thought, what the did I take the ride on this for, right?
Yeah.
But you do.
Yeah,
you just
correct.
take the ride. I get to the races, hadn't heard anything, never rode track work, had never seen it. It come in the enclosure and I'm standing out there waiting for Henry Davis to come in. And I thought, shit, this is a nice horse, walking around the yard. I looked over at the tote and he was 100 to 1. In those days, it used to be 1H.
Yes.
100 to 1.
Yes.
And I thought, shit, he's a nice horse for 100 to 1 shot. Henry Davis comes in, never said he backed it, never said there was any money for it or anything. He said, I said, pleased to meet you, Henry. He said, all I want you to do on this horse, when the barrier's open, I want you to give him a couple round the arse with a stick and put him up on the speed. I said, good as gold, no dramas. I get on him, and he's a nice big horse. Look over at the tote, 100 to 1. Drop over his neck, cantering round to the barriers. Felt a nice horse, but I kept saying to myself, he must be any good. He only beat one horse, same at Ballarat and one at Geelong. So,
Did he give you a feel going to the barrier?
yeah.
Yeah.
It just
Wow. Yeah.
felt nice.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, he's 100 to 1. You know, he's a nice horse, but
Yeah.
he must be able to run. Cut a long story short, the barrier's open. I went bang, bang with the stick, put him up outside the leader. And I thought, great, at least the trainer will be happy.
Yeah,
I've
done
done
my
what
job.
he's told me. Got to the 600 and he's bolting, Bossy. Fair dinkum bolting. And I'm thinking, this is going good for 100 to 1 shot. But when I get to the corner, I let him down.
Just bolted him.
He'll shit himself, right? And I'm going like that. Get to the corner, and I thought, as soon as I click him up,
Yeah.
he'll shit himself because he's 100 to 1. I give him a click up when I flattened out, and he went, whoosh, he won by 5, right? And I thought, that Henry Davis is good, Judge. Jesus is good. I come back to the enclosure, true story, and I looked over at the tote, and he was $2.20. And I looked down at my number because I thought, fuck, I must have got the wrong number on the way out. 100%. But he was back from 100 to 1 into 5 to 2.
Oh.
And the story don't end there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll never forget it. I got home that night and my phone rang. It's Mark Reed.
The old bookie.
And he said, and I'm half an hour from Pruney's restaurant, right? And he said, we're at Pruney's restaurant. How long before you can get here? I got a little present for you. I said, I'll be there in 15 minutes. So I got in the car and flew there. And
Were you driving a Porsche then?
Actually, I was.
You
I
were
was driving a red Porsche.
Yeah, you
I
were
was. Red Porsche,
Red
Mel
Porsche.
222. And I got there and he gave me a sling and I got home and when he gave it to me, I put it in the centre console,
Yeah.
right? And little lucky bands around it and that. And I thought, oh, that looks all right. I said, I'm not going to open this till I get home. I got to the first set of lights and they were red and I said, and there was, I've not given anybody up, but there was 10,000 in there.
Oh, how good.
Yeah, that was the
That's
big,
a big, that's a good
that was
one.
a lot of money in those
The
days.
prize money wasn't
Yeah.
10,000.
No, 100%.
Wow.
But I'll tell you how good that horse was, Adam.
Getting closer.
You're getting closer. When Kingston Town won his last race in Perth, it was called the Fruit and Veg then. And they changed the name of the race to the Kingston Town Stakes.
That's it.
And then they changed it again to the Northerly Stakes. But when he won the Fruit and Veg in Perth, the horse that runs second to him was getting closer.
Wow.
That's how good a horse he was. He was a very...
So you can imagine him in a maiden.
Oh, in a maiden,
Oh.
yeah, of walkers.
So what
There
was it-
should have been an inquiry to how Greg Hall got him to run second last at
last.
Ballarat and second last at Geelong.
Didn't like the cold?
I don't know what
I
it
would
was.
have loved to have seen that old footage
Oh,
of those
100%.
races.
But he was a very, very good horse. He
Oh,
was a
man.
Group 1 horse
Yeah.
in a maiden at midweek at Canterbury.
I just want to know what the 7 minutes were like in that betting ring when you were
Oh, my God.
taking that horse to the barriers to when
Could
you
you
came back
imagine it?
again.
Must
Well,
have been an Australia-wide plunge.
It was all over Australia.
All over Australia.
Yeah,
It must have been mayhem.
It was
Could
massive.
you imagine the phones going off for the bookies?
And, Bossy, I was leading jock at the time. There was no mobile phones in them days at all.
So it
So it was all structured
Yes.
all over the
was an
country.
operation.
Yeah.
It was, and I knew nothing about it. I
you,
swear to God.
Did you find it? What, did you have an estimate of actually how much money they pulled out of the rings?
Well, they said $1 million.
Okay. Yeah.
And And
That's a lot.
that's
And,
a lot.
and you've only got
Yeah.
10K? I'd be
98.
going back for more.
You got unders.
Mate,
I was happy with 10K, mate. Don't worry.
But when things
So-
like this happen, you guys are pretty much the only ones that don't know it's
don't know.
happening.
No.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Because you're a kilometre
Mate,
away
if-
from
yeah.
where the action is and like
If
totally
Henry Davis
isolated.
walked in and said, mama, you know,
Yeah. Well, he used to talk real fast. I couldn't understand him
mate,
anyway.
there's a wind, we've had 101, don't worry about that. We've had, you know, you would have gone, oh, yeah, good on you, mate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You clown.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Because
Dickhead. Yeah,
So they
100%.
played it very well.
They played it unbelievable because he never said to me you can win. He said to me, all I want you to do is hit him round the arse when the barrier's open, put him up on the speed.
That's it.
And that's all he
How
said to
good.
me. And once I got there, I said, oh, well, they're
Mm.
going to be happy. It was the biggest plunge ever.
Hey, Bossy, what defines this guy?
Oh,
Dickhead?
no.
Yeah, 100%.
No.
Look, I tell
No,
you what
well-
defines me, Adam.
Yeah.
I had a passion for what I did. I mean, there's not a jock to have ever ridden enjoy what they did as much as what I did. I loved it.
But you had a passion for living, for life.
Yeah,
You were,
oh,
you were
100%.
full on.
Oh,
You know, you
I
lived
love
a very-
fast cars.
You love fast cars. You love your footy.
love me
Oh.
footy. Love a nightclub.
Yeah.
Love the mirror ball.
Yeah,
I thought that was
yeah.
a mirror ball
You
when
got
I walked
excited,
in
didn't
here.
Yeah, flashbacks. I started twitching.
Remember the old mirror ball?
Well, they'll-
I loved a good time.
How'd you celebrate a win? A big day? A good day?
100%. I used to love Saturday nights
Mm.
because when I was with TJ, you had to work hard. You had to be there every morning.
That's
I'd
right.
work,
Yep.
and that's just what you did. But you could have Sunday morning off. So, and in those days, don't forget, there was only two city meetings a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Yep.
But I didn't like riding work, but I used to love going to the track, getting things done, and then Saturday night after the races, going to a restaurant, and then going to a place like Juliana's.
Yeah.
I used to hang there at the Hilton a fair bit, and just getting full of the squirt and having a good time because you knew you didn't
But
have
you
to
were-
get up the next day.
He was a real, proper celebrity. Like honestly,
Proper. Yeah, proper.
no, in the you were about town,
Yeah.
like you know.
Yeah.
You were front page and back and
Yeah.
middle.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
And I loved every minute of it. I loved being in the limelight. And look, you don't get anywhere in life without putting the hard yards in. And I would put the hard yards in. But to me, it was riding twice a week. Wednesdays, Saturdays. I never rode provincials
Played
much.
your golf through the week.
Yeah. And I just loved the life. And I had a great life. I mean, but our celebrations Saturday nights was about it.
Yeah.
But then I'd rock up and go to Brookie of a Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm a mad Manly supporter.
We're good
Always
people,
have
Bossy.
been.
We're
Yes.
good people.
Yeah,
Yes.
always have been. And I went to my first, and I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I went to my first ever AFL game
Yeah.
last Friday week. I went and watched Carlton and somebody else, but it's a shit game, boss.
You don't like it?
Nah, I didn't like it at all.
Shout out to our Melbourne audience,
Yeah, well,
Australia, Western Australia, good people of Tasmania,
but
NT.
Adam, them Melburnians are different, mate, I tell you. But if you're brought up on rugby league, you're a rugby league supporter.
Yeah.
And I've never got into AFL, ever. And I still can't work out what other sport do you get a point for missing?
Yeah, that's it.
There's only one objective, isn't there?
To score
Yeah.
maximum.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, the good thing, Miracle, about Melbourne is now but they still respect Kingston Town.
Oh, yeah.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, well, that
Oh,
100%,
yeah.
100%. And look, I used to love travelling with our sport. It got me all over the world, and I rode in 8 different countries.
Yep.
And
What was your fondest memory of travelling?
Bossy, I went to England many years ago. I was only a kid, 20 years of age. You know, I went over for Ian Balding, and he had quite a few horses for the Queen.
Yep.
And I got to meet the Queen Derby Day, 1978 it was.
Wow.
The minstrel won the Derby, Lester Piggott. And what used to happen over there in those days, all the jocks, they'd invite you to line up, and everybody who rode that day got to meet Her Majesty the Queen. And it was one of the biggest thrills of my life. But I was there for 3 months, and I had an amazing time. But I was only 20 years of age, and I always said I will always go back to England. I want to go back because I just had a great time there. I loved it. And you know what? I never did.
You never did?
Never got back there.
Wow.
And I would have, to this day, I would love to go back to England.
Yeah.
I love the racing there. It was strange. You ever rode there?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But
But-
it's a beautiful place.
Oh, it was good, but there's no place like home.
No.
This is the best country in the world. How would you handle today riding every day?
Oh, well, I struggled. I picked and chose a lot.
Yeah.
I'd only ride probably maximum would be 4 days.
Yeah.
But generally 3 days a week I'd ride. I would not go to some of the meetings because
It's too much.
I wanted to focus on the good stuff. That's all I wanted to focus
Yeah.
on. And if I
100%.
got the job done there, I didn't have to worry about the other stuff. You know?
Well, I used to say it's 80% mental
it is.
and 20% physical.
Oh, no,
And we keep ourselves very physically fit, but I would not be able to handle riding every day.
no, I would get sick of it.
Oh, I
In your
would-
car for hours on hours now driving to
Yeah,
race meetings.
crazy.
It just
But it'd be a
does you
nice
good.
car, wouldn't it?
Eh?
Oh,
It'd be a nice car, wouldn't it?
mate, it'd be the best car.
Oh, it'd be a good car. Don't worry about that. Yeah, well, I'm back into pony now. I'm back on a pony now. I've got a Mustang,
Oh,
and I absolutely love it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's good fun. Really. It's
What
good
colour?
fun. Maroon.
Yeah.
Yeah, candy apple red.
Not for Queensland, buddy.
No.
oh, come on.
Yeah. for
We're
Manly.
not gonna talk about that.
Malcolm Johnson, it's been an absolute pleasure having
Adam,
you on
it's been my
Who's the
pleasure,
Boss?
mate.
Thanks for the laughs.
Thank you. It's been a
Thanks,
pleasure.
champion. You're a star.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Lizzie.
brother.
Thanks, Bossy. Thank you.
Miracle. How good.
Mate,
How
he's just got this energy, hasn't he? Like
Yeah.
he's almost like still a little kid in a way. Like,
Yes.
he's got that inner child in him. I don't think he'll ever lose that. I just love sitting beside him, and like he was like that when I first met him. Energy, and he's still the same. I just love it.
You're lucky that we recorded that before Brisbane got absolutely belted by Manly, him being a massive Manly
Yes.
NRL fan and
Yeah.
you being a Bronco, that he got away with that. But I did walk away from the interview going, oh, should I have asked that about Kingston Town and Winx? Because the look he gave me when he said, don't ask me that. But it's pub chat. It's like,
pub
who's
chat,
better?
and I'm sure he's been asked that question 1,000 times. And I hate comparing champions. I hate it. So
Yeah.
you could just see him like that, But he answered the question as he does, but and with honesty, which I love.
Yeah, recency bias is a big thing in all sports, especially racing, and Winx not going against. But you have a look at the King's record as well, and all the other great horses. So yeah, it is completely unfair, but as I said, good pub chat.
Pub chat.
Before we roll on with Bossy's best for this week, big weekend up in Brisbane, obviously, with the postponement of a few big races last week carried on to this week. IPE events, got to mention our great supporters here at Who's the Boss. IPE do some great corporate experiences at the biggest sporting events in Australia. We've got the Lions Tour coming up. They've been across Origin, Melbourne Cup later in the year, Bossy. That's a great hat.
Yeah, it is a great hat, and I reckon the Lions one's going to be massive. I can't wait. Like you say, it's just going to be. I'm definitely going to be going to that one with IPE because they put on simply one of the best 5-star events that you'd ever want to go to. You know, they do the F1, they do the racing, they do the spring carnival, the 4 days throughout the spring, and it's massive. So if you haven't been to one of the events and you want to go to a first-class event, get on the IPE website and tune in.
ipevents.com.au is the place to go. Let's get into our tips for the weekend and Bossy's best. Tips for the weekend. We've got 3 Group 1s now, thanks to a bit of rain in Brisbane last week. I thought you told me it was sunny all the time in Brisbane.
Not since Christmas. I was actually up there, and it just got. You could tell it was happening. The showers that were coming through were very, very strong. So anyway, but look what we got. We got Saturday. We've got 3 big Group 1s. So looking forward to it.
Eagle Farm is the place. So let's get to the Kingsford Smith Cup Group 1. For the sprinters that are looking at the Stradbroke, held over from last week. Have you changed your tip in 7 days? Have you overthought it, Bossy?
No, I haven't overthought it. I just digged a little bit deeper,
Okay.
Adam. And it's interesting. I've still got Jolie Star on top. You know, she's just a wonderful mare. You know, Chris Waller has this ability to just have these horses targeted at certain races. She's drawn a bit awkward, but you got J-Mac on. He'll overcome that. So Jolie Star looks like the winner. I tipped her last week still, but I'm tipping her again. She's got great stats when she's fresh. She's had 5 goes when she's fresh for 3 wins, a second and a third. They're pretty outstanding. So I found another one.
Ooh, okay.
Rise at Dawn. Now, have a listen to this. This horse got beaten less than a length in the Doncaster Handicap, had outstanding form going into the Doncaster, has had 3 goes first up for 3 wins. Now, I'm tipping that they've absolutely targeted this race for this horse.
The Hayes boys?
The Hayes boys, and they're airborne at the moment. So it's kind of one of the ones that you just look past him because he's not a household name. But when I dig deep, I thought, well, this is a real target for this horse. So I've put him in to run second. Rothfire, who wasn't running last week because he had a foot abscess, he's running this week. He'll be fine. He come off the back of running a great second in the Doomben 10,000. So he's a real warrior. So I've got him in for third, and I've got Giga Kick in for fourth.
Okay.
I think they're my top 4.
That's the Kingsford Smith Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Foot abscess. It's like a blood blister or something,
Well,
isn't it?
it's like you got a rock in your shoe, and as soon as you take it out, the pain's completely gone. It's a little abscess under their foot, and once it breaks, the pain completely goes.
Oh, well, Rothfire is a happy horse now.
He'll be very happy.
Let's go to the Queensland Oaks. So this was the race, the Group 1 designated for this day before the other ones joined it thanks to the rain. But have you found something here, Bossy? Because there's usually a long tail in races like this.
Yeah, from first to last can be some 200 metres. You know, they're 3-year-old fillies. They're going to the distance for the first time. And if it was, I think we'll get an improving track. We've had great weather up in Queensland this week. So the track will be okay. Filia, she's got a very, very impressive record. Kieran McAvoy has ridden her last 2 starts for 2 victories. She won the Roses, which is traditionally the best lead up for this race. So she looks like she's on an upward trend. She looks like the winner for mine.
Good staying performance in that as well. They loomed up and then she just went away again.
Kept fighting.
Big lungs.
Yeah. So Panito.
Mm-hmm. The Godolphin horse.
Yep. Won the Gold Coast bracelet by some 3.5 lengths. I know that was a very rain-affected track, but it was so impressive. I've got her in for second, and I've also got Moving Out, who ran third in the Roses for my top 3.
There you go.
I think the market's kind of found her, but they always seem to do in these three-year-old staying events.
And speaking of a 3-year-old staying event, we've got the Derby, the Queensland Derby, held over from last week. So there was a few options here for a few of the runners, including a horse like Belle de Tel down the bottom there for Chris Waller, a filly, but Chris has stuck it in the Derby. But which way have you gone in this race?
I'm with Deep Focus. Mm-hmm. You know, when we tipped him last week, he was 25 to 1. You know what price he was on the weekend when I was at the races? He was like 12 to 1.
Ooh.
Now, he's back out to that quote again. He's running the rough habit, which is always a great lead up to the Derby. He ran second coming from near last. It was a red light on my head moment. That was the one. I can't believe the price. I'm sticking with him. I just think he's a very progressive stayer. And actually, I ran into Michael Rod. Was obviously the races were cancelled, and I said, I really like yours. He said, mate, I really like this horse.
Okay.
So at big odds. I can't believe it. I've got him in for winning. I've got firm agreement to run second.
Yep, the toppy.
Yep. Nash Rilla, he was out the back in the rough habit with no chance of even winning. Nash will ride him a bit more confident. He'll put him in the race. He's a horse that just loves staying on. He'll keep ticking over. And I've got Imperialist in for third.
Far out, Bossy.
I know.
If that trifecta comes in,
I know.
I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to have a good time doing it.
Well, you're going to have a good time after it.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, they're my numbers.
Could last weeks, not just days.
Yes.
That's big odds there for the Queensland Derby. So we're looking forward to next week as well, mate. We've got some great guests on the way. We've got a Lions-themed guests. We've got an Origin theme coming along the way and a few more racing gurus to join us on the couch here, mate. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's been a great fourth series. We've had some great guests and it's just rolling on. I'm really loving this space.
Likewise, mate. Thanks for joining us on Who's the Boss. We'll catch you soon. If you like our content, hit the like button somewhere down here.
And if you want to subscribe, right here.